We're going live, and we are live. Exciting day 74, your lucky number. We are going to do another rapid fire session of many questions all about leading and management. And we've got David Roget. So Matt, the thing that's cool about this, just before I ask the first question, is you have made a service that's all about learning from the world's best and defining characteristic for you. And I think this is true of many great founders, but certainly true for you, is I see you as an extraordinary student. So let me kick off the first question, one we didn't prepare, which is when you find you need to learn something as a busy CEO, how do you do it?
It's good. So what I do is I try to find two people that have extreme points of view on it about that I am not deep on. So I try to find, this is a very intentional thing. It's not necessarily the person most aligned to my own point of view or my thing. I want extreme points of view, and I want two people that don't have the same point of view on it.
I love that.
So I see the whole range. One person who's great at this is Roy Bahat. Roy has extreme points of view.
I am an extremist. Wait, can I just ask you before we talk about me and my extreme points of view? No. Now you're CEO of like a big, hot, exciting company. We're proud to be investors, blah, blah, blah. Does the way that you access those people's opinions change? Has it changed over the course of your career? Are you talking about like reading their points of view? Or are you talking about talking to them? Like literally, how do you do it once you've identified those people?
I've always been somebody who I need to like talk things out. Like it's much easier. I understand it better. I engage with it more. I can ask questions. So it's always been to talk it out. I think, now people are more interested in the brand and masterclass, and so more people are glad to chat than they were in the beginning. But you still look for somebody with a extreme point of view, and also there's people that you just click with. I mean, Roy, if you think the first time us two met from I think it was James Cham introduced us.
Sight.
What?
I said, love it first sight.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was, and so you find those people all throughout your life, and you just keep going back to those people.
I love that. Okay. Oh, keep going back to them about the same subject. So not necessarily like a deep expert in that one thing, but the same subject.
Oh, sorry. I mean, it's a deep expert in that thing, so I keep going back to them on that subject.
Okay, cool. Yeah. And as you know, I am an extremist. All right, hit me with one. What do you want to ask me?
You are an instigator.
I don't know what that means.
This is my impression, to say a point of view in the room that most people are going to be rocked by. Yeah,
I do.
I always wondered if that was an intentional thing, and if so, how come?
It is intentional. I want to contrast it with being a contrarian, because I don't see myself as a contrarian. Often I see myself as saying the blunt and extreme version of what I believe is both true or maybe true, and many people are thinking in the room. Because I just find it really clarifying. Like you often get that exhale of like, yeah, why didn't I say that? And honestly, I practiced it because I saw many of the leaders I respected doing it. And it's taken me some time to learn the fact that, I have to narrate that I'm not as confident in it as I sound. You've heard the staying often wrong, never in doubt, and make it work as part of a system of like just being truthful and honest. And because there are many people who never quite get that confident and are still incredible leaders. And they need to make space for themselves to think and know how they're understood. And so it's just, to me, it's like, how does the whole system fit together? But yeah, I like it because it's often clarifying. And honestly, I get less bored. Work can be super boring unless like fun and exciting things happen. And sometimes I need to generate that.
The real truth comes out. Okay, and my follow-up question to that was, how did that work when you worked inside large organizations? Because I think the first default belief most people have is that is bad, that's going to get you in trouble. You're not going to get it.
Yeah, I haven't detected that much difference in large organizations versus not. It's more like in the beginning of my career, I didn't do it that much because I didn't have the confidence to, and it took practice. And so it's more like it takes practice. In fact, often in large organizations, that can be even more differentiated. Like I never met a founder who wasn't at least somewhat confident to speak their mind, but like a mid-level corporate executive, if you're willing to do that, it's like, whoa, truth seeker, blah, blah, blah. So that's, I don't know how I think about that. So this does get to talking about difficult things. How do you talk to, whether it's your board, or your team, when you have bad news?
Yeah, this has been honed.
You have had no bad news ever to share, David, have you?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You always have had to share. Hopefully the good the good is more good right than bad. I think so. Whenever something bad happens, sure. I think the first thing I realize is my instinct is like I want to text every board member about what's going on, and I learned no. You want to take a beat. You want to calm down on the emotions and all the intensity of it, and you actually want to think of a plan. And so when I try to share bad news, you try to so I'm not all tied up in it anymore. I definitely have a plan on it. Now it might not be. I don't have a solution for it yet, right? But I have a plan of how I'm going to find that solution and answer. Because otherwise, what happens when you call the board and you say, here is my bad news? They are glad to brainstorm with you and help. But I think the job of the CEO is to be one step ahead of that.
Sure. Get their feedback on it. I mean, one thing I just say, many people wait and never say it because they don't even recognize that it's bad news. They don't admit it to themselves. You have an admitting to yourself and speed and intimacy, like the idea that you would just informally reach out to people versus like, here is my prepared memo, that kind of thing.
The amount of trust you're going to build if you're just upfront about it. And look, odds are the bad news, the board has seen this before 1,000 times. So it's not as bad as you personally think. Second of all, I had a rule that I learned from, Mark, who's one of our execs, that a board meeting should never be a surprise. There should never be anything inside a board meeting that is a surprise to anybody in that room.
Yeah.
So I go out to lunch every single month with every one of my board members, and I share what's going on, the good and the bad. So there's nothing in the board meeting that should ever be a surprise.
Yeah. You don't go out to lunch with them anymore unless you're masked.
We now do Zoom.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. Let me ask one more while we're on this.
Yeah.
Around difficult news, you have to make decisions where your teammates disagree with you. They see something differently. They want to do it differently. How do you do that? How do you get them? When do you defer to them? When do you get them to do what you want? How do you communicate it? Like you and your team disagree. What do you do?
I got this wrong a lot in the beginning, to be honest. I would try to talk to every single one of them. I try to offline so they understand it. What?
You liked to be liked.
Even more than that, I wanted them to feel that they were respected or that I respected them, I think. Yeah. And I learned that is a fucking disaster.
Yeah.
Because then what happens, everybody hears their own version of things. They get more frustrated and annoyed because like, dude, I could deal with you just saying that you do not agree with me. Can we just do it in the room so everybody's on the same page? Yeah. So I learned like I do it in the room. So like I try never to solve something just between me and one exec. It's always like, let's have the right forum to do it in. Two, we're very clear on it. And I'll explain how I'm thinking about it. That does mean everybody's going to agree on it. And if it's a really contentious thing, I will have them go around in a circle and say, I disagree, but I
love
commit.
That.
And look, that what?
You make them commit.
I make them commit because if somebody says like if they don't is when like mess happens. Now look, that's also for me. So my execs have also done that to me. Hey David, I know you don't agree. Are you committing to this?
Oh, that's beautiful. I've heard the disagree and commit thing from Amazon, but I'd never heard of anybody going around and making people do it. I think that's really cool. It sort of fits in what I call my coach maybe gave me this phrase actually, but like opening up the theater of your mind. It's like they're thinking I'm disagreeing and committing, but there's a difference to opening it up. And I remember James, who works with me and Min, once said to me in a meeting, and maybe he said this since then many times, which is on the same theater in your mind, we disagree. He's like, okay, we disagree on this. Is this one where you just decide and we go along? Or is this one where we're talking about it? And it's like, oh, that's actually really helpful clarity. Because sometimes as the CEO, you are just going to be the motherfucking CEO and decide.
Yeah, and there are times, and the team had tons of thoughts on it. I didn't know they were asking for a decision.
Right, totally.
So the team
would decide for themselves.
Yeah, so the team would ask my thoughts. I'm like, oh, I'll tell you my thoughts, and they're like, no, can't. Or if you make a decision, I'm like, I didn't know you wanted. Oh, sure. Like I just didn't know you wanted me to make. So now I will legit ask, what are the decisions that you're asking me to make?
Well, one of the folks I noticed watching is John Waltice, who's one of the co-founders of Twilio, which Twilio is a metaphor for this in a way, because what I hear you saying is the clarity of the protocol of the moment. Oh, is this a decision-making moment? I see now. Then you can act on it. And having the clarity in those communication protocols, it goes a long way.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to keep going unless you interrupt me with a question.
I have some. Who are the people are the types of people that you've learned to never ask for advice from?
That's an awesome question. I think, first of all, despite not believing in advice, I often ask for it. So there goes my hypocrisy.
Why don't you believe in advice?
Because all advice is autobiographical. It's usually the person is trying to get you to either live out and justify their choices, or worse, they want you to be a vicarious experiment for them and see how it turns out. And either way, unless they know you really deeply and care about you deeply, like, can I give my brother advice? Yeah, I think I probably can, barely, if he wants to take it. But in like just a random setting, it's more about them than about you. So that's why. And I don't actually think, when I get asked for advice, often by founders or some people, I'm like, I don't really know. Like, there's no, they want a magic wand sometimes. And I don't, or not a magic wand. They want a silver bullet, like an easy answer to the thing. And I don't have that. So that's why. But here's what I'd never ask, is somebody where the moment they tell me the answer, I will become bound to act on it in some way because of their ego. Like the kind of person who's like, I told you to do that, never ask for advice. Only if I'm really sure they know that thing would I go.
So are you saying, so people that you might be more bound to would be your boss, let's say?
It might be. I haven't had bosses like that in a long time. My bosses have been understanding, but they're definitely, like, when I was a founder, we had a VC who was like, I told you in the last board meeting to do this. It's like, are you kidding me? Like, is that how you think it works? That's not how it works. The founder decides. And, it informed my attitude as a VC. But yeah.
See, what I would alter in what you said is the advice. I think you change how you think of advice. I think there's very rare, I don't mean you personally, but I think in general, there's very rare cases where you actually want, what is it you would do in this exact case? Because odds are there's been maybe half of the person.
Right. It's so specific.
Yeah. So for me, it's more about like, this goes back to what we were talking about earlier, an extreme point of view that then helps me figure out what is my range of options, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. I love that. So it's sort of, by the way, one thing I often say is I don't believe in advice, but I believe in giving somebody hypotheses. So like the range of options, I'm not saying you should do this, but I'm saying here's a possibility that helps you understand what your choices are.
Yep.
All right.
One thing, I have somebody at the door. I'm just going to tell them, hold on a second.
Somebody at the door. I love it. You're good. All right. So this is more on learning from people. You have been amazing at getting people you don't know to show up for stuff, show up for events. You then obviously recruited, you made a business out of recruiting some of the world's experts to do it. But just on, if it's somebody prominent, how do I reach out to them cold and get them to respond?
It's a really good question. My inspiration for this is a guy by the name of Tristan Walker. Who is a great entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And he had this
Walker and Company.
Yep, who just sold it. And he's on the board of Foot Locker and Shake Shack now.
So cool.
And he had this crazy story. So he at the time this was 10 years ago, wanted to work at Foursquare, which was like the hot company to work for. Everybody wanted to work there. And he applied on the site to go, and he did not hear anything back. He sent emails. He got emails. He didn't hear anything back. So he emails again and again and again and again. It's like 6 emails or something like that.
Yeah, he worked for my old friend Dennis.
And I have chutzpah. I couldn't have done that after 6. So after 6, he's still not hearing back. So if I remember the story right, he started just doing work for them. And he started going, and he's like, hey, he started to reach other brands. Hey, would you want to run ads on Foursquare?
Oh, that's amazing.
And like there were 3 companies that said, yeah. So then he emailed me.
It was a small enough, new enough company that it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah. And so I think figuring out a way to, if you want somebody who isn't responsive to you or, might not respond to you, how do you do something in a way that is going to be for them, that actually is going to help them? The last thing somebody wants to read is a long, cold email. So thinking of some way that you can help them, there's always a way that you can help them. Yeah.
I love that. Love that. So usefulness to them, even if it means doing the work, which, by the way, a little harder if it's like a big company like AT&T, because you call around saying like, do this with AT&T. A, you can't really deliver. B, somebody at AT&T is going to be mad that you're using their name. But with a little new company, maybe not that big a deal. Anyway.
Sure, but there's always going to be some exec, if you're trying to get a hold of somebody there at the company at AT&T, that you can do something for, that they're going to appreciate, they're going to like, that they will then sit with you.
And I think this is, by the way, a general thing about advice. You were saying you don't ask somebody about that specific situation. And I think if the question were, how do I take advice? It's see through the specific recommendation to the principle that's behind it, and then apply the principle to that situation that you're in. That's often, I think, like, no, I didn't say use Garamond as your font. I said use something readable, whatever.
And I think the other part that if you pick, there's all different types of, things you want, what you want to learn from somebody. But I know I am anxious about certain things. Yeah. So I've now learned over a decade that there are like two people, depending on the thing, right, that I can go to who I've enough of a track record that if they say I'm over anxious about it, 9 out of 10 times they are right.
Oh, I love
right?
That.
Which then like really helps.
I love that. All right, let me ask. I'm going to take it another direction. So interrupt me if you want to, because I express love through interruption, so I can also receive love through interruption. One thing that people tend to get anxious about when they're employees at a company is their progress. Are they getting promoted? Are they doing well? You've been an employee at a big corporation. Yeah. You've now run a large and growing organization. Yeah. If somebody wants to get promoted, how do they do that? Should they want that? And how do they do that?
Frustrating to me, always to me about it was, you spend so much time when you work at a company thinking about how you get a promotion, and part because it's like never clear. Mm-hmm. And we try to make it more clear at Masterclass. We do not do a great job of it yet, right? So we are trying, right? There's a whole bunch of room we have there. I don't think we're great at it yet. For me, I think, what I wish I'd done earlier on is just like asking my boss, what is it would take to get a promotion? Trying to get as much as you can out of it, and then just achieving those things. And what ends up happening, and this depends if you have a good boss or not, a bad boss, to get a promotion, you have to make them happy. A really good boss is achieving outcomes and results. And so what you want to try to figure out from your boss is, what is it I'm going to be judged on? And then just trying to execute that. And I think tends to be is you need to be doing the job that you want ahead of time. So if you're going for a promotion to a level 4 or whatever it is, you want to be doing the work of the 4 while you are a 3.
Dress for the job you want, email for the job you want. Another principle we learned in a recent training. I'd be curious if you agree with this, which is sometimes getting a promotion is not just about your boss's choice. It's sometimes a social dynamic for them within the organization. So you have to do a little bit of an enterprise sale to figure out, well, who else has to be at least comfortable with this, if not an advocate or something like that. Like you sort of need
100%. And this is why if you ask your boss, you're going to pick up on that stuff. If they're like, well, I'm not really sure, we got to talk to this person. You're like, oh, my boss isn't the one that makes those calls.
Yeah, I think that's right. You can pick up on it, although I think sometimes your boss may not know. They may not be savvy. Yeah. I also find, and I'm curious if you agree with this, that most people oversolve for getting promoted. Like the best careers I know of didn't go like coordinator, senior coordinator, junior VP, senior VP. One of my saddest moments ever. I was unemployed for almost a year. I finally got a meeting with a senior executive at Dow Jones, really interested in working there. I was like, what was the most important moment in your career? And she spent 45 minutes telling me about when she got promoted from VP to SVP. And granted, she was one of the first women at Dow Jones in an executive role. She went through things that I can't possibly understand, but I definitely got a little saddened that like somebody adding the letter S to the front of your title might be that meaningful to you. So do you think people oversolve for getting promoted?
I think they oversolve and they overthink it. It's like, I don't think it's as complicated as they think. All right, Roy, I'm going to ask you, interrupt you.
Right. Hit me.
What is a promotion that you think you should have gotten that you did not?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, yeah, I have one, which is I got hired to run a subsidiary of News Corp, IGN. And a weird thing that happens, a video game media company, I was the head of it. A weird thing that happens in big companies is you can have a role description type title and a level title at the same time. So my role was I ran IGN. I was the general manager of IGN at the beginning. The level, they were like, and you're a vice president. And I was like, what? This makes no sense whatsoever. I was like, just kill the vice president part from the name. You can have whatever you need in the system in the background. I don't care. But then what I discovered is pay was tied to that leveling. And then my peers who ran businesses that were no more complicated than mine, often less complicated, had titles like president. And eventually I was like, oh, that's what I need if I want to get paid and blah, blah, blah. So then I fought for it. The tricky dynamic there was that the person for whom I worked accepted me working for him under duress. He probably thought I wasn't qualified, but I had been put in by a more senior person. And so there was some complication that like this was a thing he could control. Yeah. So I had to solve that and build trust with him and work with him. So shit's complicated.
Yeah. Shit is
it felt like picking a lock, and it took me some time.
Yeah. And that to me is like wasted energy.
Yeah, it was wasted energy, although it was important to me.
Sorry. I don't mean waste energy for you. I mean,
of course, the organizational system wasted my energy on that instead of thinking about like what new product should we launch and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. In terms of applying for jobs, how do you know when you're applying for a job if it's something that you will enjoy?
This is one of the hardest things I think there is in the world. The gap of extra information is so big, right? I think one of the best things is you like back channel. I think back channels in general are underrated. I think they're great. Back channel as much as you can.
What does a back channel mean in this context?
Figure out how to talk to employees at that company that aren't on the team. Like, look, if you're able to talk to ones on the team, great. But it's much easier to talk to ones who aren't on the team, right? Or even if they aren't in that department.
People who recently left.
Yeah, right. And you want to hear, and you are going to hear bad stuff, and that's fine. The thing is, you want to hear what type of bad stuff. Is it bad stuff that your boss throws things at people? If so, that's really bad. Yeah. Or is it like, look, an ex-employee might have things, I wasn't aligned with this, or I didn't like this as much. Like, that's fine. It's figuring out what is the bad stuff. I also think to read on Glassdoor is not a bad place to start. Now you have to remember, why is somebody going to write on Glassdoor? They're either extremely pissed or they are extremely thrilled. And so you're going to get those extremes. That's fine. But you want to see what the extremely pissed people are saying, right?
Yep. Yeah, I love that. Okay. I want to ask some masterclass, not gossip, but masterclass specific question, which is you've worked with some of these famous luminary people. What do you know now, having worked with them, that you wish you'd known? Like what can you learn from seeing how they operate? Because I've had a chance to work with some people, but more like business leaders than celebrity famous. And I'm just curious what you've learned from them.
I had a myth here. I thought these folks were going to be, not work hard. They kind of chill now. They're a type of craft. Was I totally wrong? These people are insecure about their craft. They're insecure about themselves. All the insecurities that we all feel, they feel the same ones.
It never gets better, does it?
It doesn't go away. The thing that they all do is they take that insecurity and they channel that into learning and working hard.
Yeah.
So not a single one of them just like sits on their butt and chills. I mean, they work the most hardworking people I've ever met, and they love feedback. And like, no, it can still pain. No, it might pain them. Every single one of them, every break in the shoot, and what am I doing well? What do I need to change? Every single one of them.
That's fascinating. I love that. That is a great lesson. Yeah. I mean, I think it goes with this quality that great founders, and pretty much not every single one, but most great leaders that I've met have, which is that they're great students. And it's like asking for feedback is a way of being a great student.
Yeah, and I think the part that's been neat to see with them is it's not that they then do what everybody said, but they want to know how other people are perceiving it and think about it, and then they can decide what is the solution if they want to solve it.
All right, so let me take that in a slightly like a further direction, which is one of the things I've noted about the slate of experts that you have as all of the talent on Masterclass is it's a pretty diverse group of people. I'm sure you feel like it could be more diverse in a bunch of ways, but it's a pretty diverse group of people. In tech and in many industries, we struggle with having a diverse employee population, leadership. And I'm curious how you've thought about that now that you have a big organization of your own. And here's like two white men talking to each other about this, but I think it's important for us to ask, how do you think about that at Masterclass?
Yeah, I mean, we set goals around it. We set goals around it externally and also internally, and both on who we have teach, who we have as employees. And then after that, you actually make a plan for it. And the plan, the goal setting part, often people don't do, is the easiest part because you can set the goals. The hard part is then how do you actually, and even the plan then it's about the execution of it, right? And Yeah, for us, it's a key part of our mission and what we care about. I want to make it possible for anybody to learn from the best in the world, right?
So it's integrated into the reason you do what you do. I just want to stop on that for a second, which is the organizations that I've seen that do the best at anything, whether it's their diversity and inclusion efforts or workplace safety, if they have those kinds of issues, is they tie that to their core purpose for being. And you have a pretty natural reason for that. And I think that's magnificent.
Yeah, and in our ways of working, in our team values.
Yeah,
I mean, I love to talk to people and have people around the table who do not think like me. So it's a high in life. I like it. Now, it is a more pain in the butt because that means people don't think the same way, so they aren't as aligned as much, and it takes more time to do it. But the ideas are way more interesting and fascinating. So we have people on the team that have won Emmys. We have people with PhDs, and we have people that have not finished school, and are engineers, and a whole mix of
fabulously weird.
What?
How fabulously weird.
It is quirky, and I am quirky, so
I love that. No, I like to be wrong, or as my wife Sarah corrects me, as you know, which she has done more than
not afraid to do.
Yeah, not afraid to do it all. She's like, no, you aspire to like being wrong. And I think, by the way, even for people who've had similar professional backgrounds to you, like I think about your team and Mark, who current role is COO. Is that the right description of his role? Mark Williamson, who is professionally has a similar background to you, but you guys come to problems just in such different methods. So even people who seem similar in some ways, but are quite different, let alone people who are very different. Are there jobs for which you are hiring right now?
Please go to our site. You can look. There's a whole bunch of roles we're hiring for. Obviously in eng and product design, on the content side, on the finance side. We are hiring across the board. So if you care about to learn and helping other people learn, we would love to talk to you.
And you get to work with David Roget, who is charismatic by nerdy tech standards, according to our home team journalists at Bloomberg.
That was a great quote.
I love that. And I love you for it. I still love you. And I'm grateful that we get to work together. This is, I think we're going to wrap it now so you can get to your next thing. But this was really great. And if folks have other questions to ask on future days, people you want to have join us here, it makes me think we should reach out to Tristan Walker and get him to come on. I think I've been on emails with him, but never actually spoken with him. So I'd actually be honored to get to learn from him here. Yeah, thank you. See, I just put an ask in. I got you to commit. Do you commit?
I commit to asking him.
There you go. No, that's what I mean. That's all I needed.
I thought you were going to ask me what you can do to help me.
No, I wasn't. But if you haven't asked for me, that's fine. But when I need something from you, I might offer something to you. No, I'm in a constant customer service mentality. That's what I learned about the venture businesses. I just run a customer success team that sells money. All right, back tomorrow with Min. Thank you, David.
Thanks, everybody.